All right, next problem. I should show it to you on here. It says determine the solutions to the equation 3x plus 1 is equal to x to the third minus 2x squared using the intersect feature on your calculator. So here's the first thing you're going to do. I want you to take one of the equations, we'll say the 3x plus 1. I want you to type that into the y1. And I want you to take the other equation, x to the third minus 2x squared, and I want you to type that into y2. So that your calculator should look something like this right here. And then once you've done that, I want you to hit the graph button. And most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, we're going to do the same thing we did in the previous problem, which was you hit zoom, and then you choose right here, zoom standard, number 6. Now, the x values that solve this equation will be the x values of the points of intersection of the two graphs that we just looked at. The line, which is the 3x plus 1, and the cubic function, which is x to the third minus 2x squared. So the first thing is I'm looking right here, and it appears that they intersect, but I'm not 100% sure. So what I would like to do is zoom in on this area. There's a couple ways that you can go about that. One is you can hit number 2, which is the zoom in button. But what I prefer is to select number 1, the Z box. Now, what happens if I choose number 1, the Z box, is that it allows me to set a new window like so. I'm going to move my cursor to about right here. I'm going to hit enter. You'll notice that it turns into a rectangle, and I can now use the arrow buttons right here to move a little to the left and a little bit up. And I've now captured this little region, and I'm going to make that the window by hitting enter. Oh, and there we go. Now we can see that, in fact, they do not intersect right there, which means we're not going to get any solutions to the equation in that region. Back to the original graph. Zoom standard. Looking at the original graph, we can see that for sure there is an intersection up here. And I might like to get a better window on that because it looks like it might be a little bit off of the graph. Here's what I would do in this situation. Go to window. And the issue that we have was that the Y value is not quite high enough. So on the window here, I might go down to Y and set the maximum at something more like 15. And while I'm at it, I don't need to see all of the graph below, so I might change the Y minimum to 0, and I'll just move it up a little bit. And while we're at that, on the x-axis, I could tell it's a positive x value, so I don't need to see the negative x value. So I might change the x min to 0, and then let's hit graph again. And there's our intersection. Now, once you have identified where the intersection is, I don't want you to simply do this. Some students will hit the trace button, and they will move their little cursor. I'm not seeing my cursor for some reason here. Oh, there it is. Over to the intersect, and they'll estimate what's the x value right here. And that's not a terrible way to go about it, but a more accurate way is to use your calculator's intersect feature, which you can access by hitting second calc, and then scrolling on down to number 5. So now that I'm here, once again, calc intersect, I am going to select number 5. It's going to ask me what's the first curve. And it doesn't matter which curve you're on. Either will do, but you can see that I'm on the line. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Then it's going to ask me for the second curve, and you'll notice that a second little space invader-y dude pops up here, and I'm going to hit enter. The calculator now knows what 2 functions we want to work with. It's then going to ask us for a guess at where we want to intersect. And I'm going to just move the cursor as close to the actual point of intersection as I can. Then I'm going to hit enter. And voila, it's going to give me that the x value is a 3.0795956. We'll call that 3.08 would be the solution to the equation. All right. So there you go, folks. Now you know how to find an intersection on your calculator.